Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls here today with why Noah from Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a great character. Out of all the characters in Xenoblade 3, I find my thoughts on Noah to be the hardest to formulate, and I struggle to make this very video for this specific reason, because I know that I love this character, but putting my reasons why into words is proving to be a difficult task. When I played the game, all the way until Chapter 5, my main complaint was Noah. I felt that he was just kind of there as a protagonist, you know? He didn't really grip me as much as Shulk or Rex did. And you know, the more I think about it, maybe it's because he, outside of a couple cool scenes involving Lucky 7, he didn't seem to have much of a character. He was very idealistic, don't get me wrong, but he was largely expressionless in conversation and felt like he was just there as primarily a self-insert for the player. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind self-insert characters, it's just that this style of character isn't one I was expecting with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so it threw me off, since he felt like this odd man out amidst this party of big personalities. Now, I didn't hate him as a character, he didn't detract from the story at all, he was always just kind of there, you know? Unless he did something that was really badass, like in the first fight with Mio, when he read her moves because he knew the Agnian off-seeing tune. That was awesome. Or whenever he breaks a flame clock, especially that first time. That was awesome. That was cool behavior. It's just I wanted something a bit more from him, like I was grasping at something, but I couldn't really grab it yet. Couldn't really feel it. But then Chapter 5 hits like an isekai truck, and I suddenly got exactly what I wanted from him. Palpable character growth and development. Or did I? Well, I got what I wanted. That is not up for debate in my opinion. But what I got was not necessarily something that I knew that I wanted. Look, the future is scary. We all know that. It's an unknown. We don't like the unknown. We like what we know. What we can see, touch, smell, and understand. What we can experience, what we can sense. We grow comfort in that familiarity. But the future isn't guaranteed, it's malleable, it's essentially ethereal, a fog that only grows hazier and denser the longer you peer into its gaping maw. It can be unsettling, thinking of all the possible futures that exist and how we sometimes just don't know how to walk towards the one that we want. We aren't guaranteed happiness. Noah isn't guaranteed happily ever after. But bringing it back to what Noah is, and why he's such a great character, and why that what I just talked about matters, is because Chapter 5 manages to subvert my expectations for what Noah as a character actually meant for the story as a whole. Noah was always an idealistic character, but throughout the course of the game, his ideals become recontextualized and pivot slightly. He always hated the way that the world undervalued life and treats it as something to be discarded. He always wanted people to be happy. But what he learned through walking in End's footsteps is that the important thing is that people need the ability to choose to find their own happiness. That choice is critical. It can't be forced on people because otherwise it becomes suffocating and destructive. That happiness, it has to come from a choice, a personal choice. You can't just curl up in a ball of self-satisfaction while the world restricts the ability to live. You have to be willing to stand up and fight, to take back your own future with your own two hands, and no matter how many times you get knocked down, you get right back up and you try again. N was the tale of giving up and refusing to face the future in fear that it will rip your current happiness away because it did for him over and over and over again. But Noah is the tale of taking back your own future. Despite what it may give, despite the fact that it's not guaranteed, you don't give up your own ideals because it's difficult. You hone and refine them. You find a new way to express them. And Noah even says, if it's the world itself that it's the problem, that prevents people from living the lives that they choose, then it deserves to be destroyed and changed on a fundamental level. Now, I was paraphrasing there a little bit, but still, he says pretty much that in his side story with Chris. He tells Chris that is what he learned. Look, it's no secret that Noah liked Mio, and when faced with the very real threat in Chapter 5 of Mio dying, it almost breaks Noah. And he only then actually breaks when knowing that she didn't want to die, but was left with no other choice. Now, granted, we know that he was actually talking to M the entire time, but to him it was Mio, and her words broke him all the same. but for us, it was real as well. The uncertain future he was concerned about before, well, that fog was clearing, and he was mortified of what he saw on the other end of it. He saw the eclipse taking Mio away, and he thought it was realized, and that the mission he and the other Ouroboros sent out for was evaporating in the eclipse's light. The happy ending of saving the future and fixing the world and living happily ever after was feeling like a lost dream. But that isn't an excuse to give up, to roll over and accept the evils of the world, because that's what ended. It is ever the more reason to fight back and to change the world, for the lesson that Noah learned wasn't even one that he necessarily learned. He was merely reminded of it, and had his thoughts crystallized for him. That if the world itself is the problem, then you dismantle the world and forge a new one. You don't forsake your ideals just because it's easy or self-pleasing, or just because you can find some momentary happiness that you want to make in eternity. You hang on to your ideals for dear life, because to live is to be willing to choose a future you want, and to always walk towards it, not rooting yourself in place and refusing to change. Because to change is to live, and to choose your own future, make your own decisions in an ever-revolving world is to live. Noah doesn't go through a typical hero's journey, where he needs to learn these lessons from the ground up. Instead, the world is recontextualized for him in Chapter 5, and he figures out who his real enemy is, Z. And Z represents all this doubt, all this fear of the unknown that the world and that people, humanity, have. In order to create a better world, he needs to rip that out from the roots and defeat Z. Look, it isn't the most original message ever, but it doesn't have to be, because it's a good one, with excellent execution and the growth of the character of Noah, fighting for a future that you don't necessarily know the outcome of, but a future that you are willing to walk towards in the hope that the path you walk leads to the future you choose is a strong message. And it's such a strong message because Noah is the carrier of that message. Noah is willing to sacrifice his temporary happiness with his Agnian friends and Mio for the future. He learns to be unselfish, and he learns that he can't forsake his own ideals for a cheap and easy happiness, grounded in perpetuity, unable to grow or change. I would argue Noah is a self-insert protagonist to a degree, but the way that Xenoblade 3 subverts your expectations is in that idea. He is a self-insert protagonist, but it isn't a bad thing, because it's the way he's a self-insert protagonist that subverts your expectations. Because the player learns as Noah learns. Noah has character, wants, and desires. He never didn't, but he is a good vehicle to convey the story's message because he learns and understands it at the pace the player does as well. And that is powerful in all of its own. Ordinarily, a lot of the times, the message behind a story revolves around fighting for a future that you want, that you need, that you crave, that you desire, so that you can get your own happy ending. What Noah learns is that even if you don't get your own happy ending, even if you have to rip your own happiness away, your ideals must be ironclad, and you must be willing to sacrifice your temporary happiness for the future, because a temporary happiness that you think will be for an eternity, that you only have because others suffer for it, isn't a true happiness, isn't one worth having. It's an interesting and nuanced idea or take on the concept of a happy ending. Because you can argue that Xenoblade 3 has a sad ending, you can also argue that it's a happy ending. Because all these characters are content with the choices that they made. Because Noah defines his own happy ending as being able to look back on the choices that he made and be content with it. Be content with the way that the dice rolled. Be content with the choices that you make, even if they didn't wind up with you in a happy position. Be content that the choices that you made were the right ones, of the future that you took part in choosing. And because of that, I think Noah's a really good character. And I love his growth, and I love how he grows as a character throughout the game. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on Noah as a character. Did you like him? Did you dislike him? Why did you like him? Why did you dislike him? I want to hear your thoughts and read your opinions. Leave a comment down below. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe if you like the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe with everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.